Hi, welcome to another episode of Tanking with Montana. This time it's Carl in space. And for those who aren't aware, I have already done a video on Karl in Minecraft. For those of you who don't know what Karl is a German artillery piece, semi self propelled from World War II. One of the larger pieces of equipment made, one of the more insane pieces of equipment that the Germans made during World War II. Uh, so this last April 1st, World of Tanks, the wonderful people at Wargaming, they introduced Karl as an April Fool's Day gag, which I think a lot of people kind of felt was one of the best things that Wargaming ever did. It was just a blast. They did for a hyper realistic video game. They went in and they built an 8-bit tank of one of just it was just one of the things that actually a lot of people have been hoping that they would introduce to the game at some point, even though the whole concept of Karl is a little bit outside of what the game should be able to do. But anyway, I made Karl in Minecraft, one brick at a time. And as you can see in Space Engineers, when you go into creative mode, it's in some ways it's a lot like Minecraft in space, except that's one of the ways I try to describe it. I know some Space Engineers fans kind of bristle when you do that, but it's a sandbox game. You get to do stuff, you get to play around with stuff. There's a creative mode like this where you can just place blocks. There's also what is known as a survival mode where you have to go in, you have to mine for resources, you have to capture ships, you can get hold of the ships that you look at, and when you capture them, you can cut them up, take pieces off of them, put them onto yours. You can break components down, rebuild them. It's really, really neat process. Go ahead and take a look at some of my other Space Engineers videos uh, for more information on that. So, with the way that everything works out is that you end up building a vehicle, a ship, a base, different things like that, and you do that using bricks. You can either place one by one, you can place them out in a line, or you can do what I'm doing here, and I'm using them, placing them in a plane. And as you see, you can also erase within that same plane pretty easily. And there's a lot, if nothing else, as pointless as the whole idea of building Karl. I may play with him a little bit and see if I can actually turn him into something like a little flying base or something like that, which would be kind of borderline awesome. But uh, the design is impractical for the most purposes of things you would be doing in Space Engineers. But bringing him into the game would be kind of a neat thing to do, maybe. But you can see here some of the stuff that as I go through and build. Whenever you see a pause, what I'm doing is I'm dropping over to Minecraft to take a look at my Karl build in Minecraft. And when I'm over in Minecraft doing that, this is obviously pausing. I cannot go into World of Tanks and do it because as of 9.0, Wargaming removed Karl from World of Tanks. And most of the gaming community was very, very sad. Although people had stopped pretty much playing Karl just because they didn't see the purpose. As you can see, everything that I'm building here is being done in heavy blocks. And there's within the game there, for those of you who do not play Space Engineers, there's light armor blocks and heavy armor blocks. And there are also two sizes or classes of ships. You have small ships and large ships. The small ships, if you want to think X-wing fighter; large ships, if you want to think of those, think Star Destroyer. Uh, Anything that's going to be piloted by one or two people, or if it's going to be, in some cases, like little small ships for doing things like basic mining. If you're going to be doing stuff for uh, a lot of just like fast moving around, small cargo hauling, then you're going to end up using the small ships for moving large things around, for doing a lot of exploring. A lot of people are looking at for the time when they can start going through to actually have full-on servers where people will have factions, and I think some people are trying to turn this into just like big-time PvP in space, and which personally I just kind of it's not my thing. But when I'm looking at what I'm trying to get done here, it would be kind of cool to do that. But a lot of what we're doing in here, I'm continuing to build and I'm continuing to look around at stuff. And as we build up for what we're doing, we are going through, and you're going to see a mistake that I'm making here in a second. Oh, and you may have noticed the little yellow bricks that I've got spaced out along the sides of. Oh, yeah, this is where I noticed what's going on. I started. This is supposed to be the counterbalance on the back side of the turret. And if you know what Karl looks like, you'll realize that I'm actually building it on the front side of the turret. So here I am going back around. Those little yellow bricks that I have down along the base of the tracks are there just to index. I've got those set every 5 blocks just so I don't have to go through and count every time. Um, and occasionally you'll see me do some painting of different things, and that's actually kind of one of the things with the heavy blocks. That one of the easy visual differences between the heavy blocks and the light blocks is that the heavy blocks have a camouflage pattern, the light blocks are plain. Uh, and then there's a whole palette of colors in between that you can tint stuff. A lot of varieties of grays and black, from like white to black, and about half a dozen grays in between. And then you've got a couple different types of blues and greens, red, yellow. It's pretty neat, some of the work that they've gone to, and I'll actually be looking forward to when they introduce some different colors into the palette. But that's just because of kind of how I roll in this. Um, One of the things that really made me realize I wanted to get Karl done was when Space Engineers, as an update a couple weeks ago, they introduced working rocket pods for large ships. And that's actually one of the really nice things about Space Engineers is every Thursday, like clockwork, they have a new patch for the game. And either in a lot of cases there'll be about 4 or 5 bug fixes and 2 or 3 new introductions to the game. Like right now I'm picking out glass windows. These were introduced, and you can see the variety of selection there, from the squares to rectangles to triangles of different types, uh, in order to try and make things a little bit more. I don't know if they're trying to make it more sci-fi or what exactly their goal was, but they want to be able to let people have full-on glass cockpits. And there's some really crazy glass work I've seen people doing uh, for a lot of the stuff that I'm up to here. This is just kind of simple, and I just figured if I want to be able to see where I'm going from inside the ship, there's a third-person view that allows you to see that too. But from inside the ship, I wanted to have a little glass cockpit, and I knew that there was this little box right at the front side of the turret for Karl, and I thought I'd go ahead and I'd build that on there. And in the meantime, I get a little bit of a chance to learn some more about how the mechanics work on glass. And you'll see, for those of you who don't know Space Engineers, that red pane that you'll see that like bisects the ship right there. Uh, what that red pane is it allows you to work in different dimensions simultaneously, and so you can be symmetrical. In this case, across that plane, you can reset the plane. Yeah, that's where I have to really figure out something that's going on the back end of the tank. But you can set the symmetry plane in a variety of ways, and so like if I want to, I can make something that, like if I want to make a big tall pillar that's the same on 4 different corners, I can do exactly that. If I want to make something that is symmetrical top bottom, left right, top bottom and left right, I mean it's just kind of crazy how far you can go with that. Um, but what I'm trying to figure out right now is, for some reason, the blocks on the back end of Karl do not work right, because I've got everything kind of indexed to everything else, and there should be more space in different spots and less space in other spots. And at first, I'm going the wrong way about fixing this, but then I end up figuring out what's going on, because there should be more right there, but yet the tracks are supposed to be flush with the back deck of the tank, and so we'll be finding out what's going on with that here in a second. But I'm very glad that I had some of the stuff set up. I learned a lot of lessons building in Minecraft before I came over to this. And that right there is the issue. There was supposed to be an extra step in there, and I didn't. I went down one, back one, down one, back one, instead of going down one, back one, down one, back two. That put that bottom row of tracks off by one block, which meant at the back end of the tank it was off by one block, and when I was indexing off of that, the whole thing was off. So, and you'll notice right now that there's a lot of stuff that's two different colors, and that was a mistake. And you'll see later on, I kind of go back and repaint everything just the one color, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. And I end up finally going in when I got done with most of this build and getting Karl able to fly. I went back and repainted him, and for some reason I ended up munging that video, but you're already having to sit and watch through all of this stuff. Here I am placing the rocket launchers. And I just switched from plane mode on placement of bricks to line mode. So I'm going to place a strut right across the center of it, and the strut is primarily going to be just for the mounting of engines. There's two sizes of engines in Space Engineers, and that's regardless of which class of ship you're flying. You'll have a big thruster and you'll have small thrusters. And big thrusters are just like if you want to start moving, that's what you use. Small thrusters are just going to be kind of like pushers and help you slow down and help you keep your trim. And they also, like if you're trying to do small maneuvering, you'll see just like the little puffs of jets coming from them. And there's a spot here in a little bit, you'll see a couple of thrusters just working overtime trying to make sure the ship stays straight. And this is one of my only kind of real serious nitpicky bits from Space Engineers, is that you can place thrusters all over the inside of a ship and the ship still moves. I've got a concern with that. If somebody has some better knowledge of how that aspect of physics works, let me know, because my understanding is that it shouldn't work. All that should do is circulate hot air around the room. But what's a little bit of plasma between friends? So here I am. I've just placed my bridge console and fired some missiles, and I was really surprised at when you sit and you look at it. I ended up actually kind of adding a little bit more equipment, primarily gyroscopes, and that's kind of some of the stuff that you have to do when you're building some sort of a spaceship in Space Engineers. Is you need to make sure you have power in the way of reactors. You have to have thrust in all six forwards and backwards, left, right, up, down, all six axes of travel. And then you have to have gyroscopes, and mainly the gyroscopes help you turn. And so you can see here I am. This is the final Karl. This is after I've added a ton of gyroscopes. I added some more rockets, and so we're now at 13,000 tons. I've got 210 megawatts worth of power coming through my reactors, and I can accelerate forward at about 1 meter per second per second. Not exactly falling through space, but it's for something this size, you wouldn't really expect it to do much. And so I'm pulling the trigger on that thing right now, but just due to the draw range and how the missiles operate and how crappy my graphics card is, you can't really see them, so I'm pulling in to do that. I've got a couple of big target plates set up, and you can see it's one of the nice things about the missile launcher is the red dot that you have. That's something I may, at some point, if Space Engineers doesn't introduce just kind of like a targeting kind of a point thing like that, I may just start putting large rocket launchers on, or even small on the small ships, small rocket launchers on every ship, simply because it's just a nice thing to help you for alignment purposes. If you have something that needs to mount or mate with something else, like in the game they've got connectors and collectors. Collectors are kind of like cone-shaped devices that you can use to help transfer materials. Connectors have these holes that just kind of get rid of whatever you want to get rid of. So say you take a mining ship out, you get filled up in your hold, you go up, you park next to your collector, you shoot all the minerals out of your connector, and so depending on what you've got going on, setting up like an index block and rocket launcher is kind of a laser pointer. I think that would be awesome just to kind of help index you where you're going to go. And those are gyroscopes that I placed. And you can see more gyroscopes all across the bottom deck. I also threw in a lot of windows down there. And unfortunately, one of the things that you'll see when you get down there is that some of the windows right underneath where my downward pointing thrusters are located, they just got completely blown out because, well, they were too close to the downward pointing thrusters. So I've got two large thrusters pointing pointing forward. I have 8 large thrusters pointing aft. Got about half a dozen pointing up, half a dozen or so pointing down, about 3 pointing port, 3 pointing starboard, although I did see one of those thrusters is out. I need to check and see if it's off or on. Those of you who have a real keen eye will notice some issues with the paint schematic that I did on this. There's a couple of spots where things could have been done just a little bit different, but it is what it is. And here's Karl. I'll go ahead and I'll do a little bit of a flyby, and I'll let you enjoy Karl in all of his glory. And by the way, if you like this, if you like some of the other stuff I've been doing, if you are a tanker and you're interested in Space Engineers, check out those videos. If you are in Space Engineers and you're interested in playing World of Tanks, check out those videos. In either case, I'm going to be on Twitch TV streaming as Montana Kennedy. I'm usually on there 9 to 11 Central U.S. time, playing Space Engineers. It seems like I've been doing that Monday, Wednesday, and Tanks on Tuesday, Thursday. And other than that, if you enjoyed my videos, take a look at the other ones. I've got lots of stuff. Follow me, and if you have anything in particular you want to see, or a question about how I do something, or something that you see in a video, or something you see in somebody else's video, give me a shout. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks a lot, and have a good day.